I want to show you how to decorate this simple, elegant buttercream cake. Now I'm going to use the impression mat on this top tier. That cake is iced in American buttercream, and after I refrigerated it overnight, I took it out and I let it thaw for about 2 to 3 hours so the icing could become really soft. That way I can press these lines into the icing and they're going to easily transfer. If you iced your cake in a meringue buttercream or something other than American buttercream, I'm not sure that this method will work because impression mats tend to only work on buttercreams that crust on the outside. But I do have tons of videos showing you how I use impression mats, and you see how I'm running my finger up and down, making sure all of those lines transfer. And then I just continue the pattern all the way to the back of the cake. And then I'm going to put that back in the refrigerator while I work on the rest of the cake. I got that bottom tier out of the refrigerator and I want 3 rows of rosettes on here. And this was 4.5 inches tall. So I'm just making marks at the 1.5 inch and 3 inch so I know how tall to make these buttercream rosettes. And I'm just going to draw a little circle here. So that's a piping bag with a tip 1M. And I'm just going in circles. I'm making sure that the rosettes are touching the one to the left of it and the bottom of the board. And I'm squeezing. And as I release pressure, I'm bringing it to a point. Now, the second row is going in between those rosettes, not exactly on top. And then the third row is going in between the second row. And for these, I'm making sure they're touching the one to the left and the right and the very top of the cake. Now I want to stack it, so I'm using my sewing ruler. That's in my Amazon store, which is in my link tree in my bio. And I just mark with a marker how tall the straw should be. And then I'm going to cut that marker off so no marker is ever going to touch the cake. And I countersink all those straws into the cake, get a little bit of icing down, and my hands are clean. I'm just taking that middle tier right out of the refrigerator and I put it on top, made sure it's level, and I'm repeating the process. And this one wasn't level, so did you see how I pressed it down on the side just to make sure that it was level? Now I have a dowel that is sharpened. I'm putting the sharp part all the way down to the countertop and cutting this dowel, hammering it through, countersinking it, and filling that hole with icing. And again, all of that is covered in my videos on how I stack cakes. Now I have this bling ribbon and I've just measured the circumference of it and I'm cutting it to the correct size. And then I take a little bit of piping gel and I get a glob in the very back. I know glob sounds gross, but you need a glob. Do you see how I'm pressing it into the glob? And then I wrap it around there, and then where it ends, I just cut off the excess and then press that other end into the piping gel, and that's really going to hold it on there. And I do the same exact thing for the very top tier, starting in the very back and then cutting it and then pressing the other side down. Super simple borders. And then I'm getting a little bit of piping gel in that lid. I have some 4mm pearl dragées and I'm just taking my tweezers to place them at all of the intersections. And then I got this 16 topper on Amazon and I'm just easily sliding that down on the top tier. And then I put that back in the fridge. And then the next day I took it out so that icing is cold and it's hard. And I'm tracing the letters on here. This is a technique that I show in many videos. I'm taking my Dresden tool and just tracing the letters. And then I have a piping bag with a tip number 3 or 4 that I used on this. And I'm just tracing all of the letters on here. And then I like to take a wet paintbrush and just push in the points and really smooth out that icing to make it look nice and pretty. And here is the cake. It's simple, elegant, and totally beginner friendly. If you give this design a try, please tag me. I can't wait to see what you create.